Hello, friends. Welcome to the Show to Be Named Later podcast. I am your host, Jonny Voss, and I am joined by my good friend, I believe who was the inspiration to the movie Little Big League, Noah Stoerzinger. How you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. Just got that manager check, so we're good to go.
Right. The only Minnesota sports movie, I believe, right? I don't count the Mighty Ducks, so I thought I'd give you that credit, because if I ever wanted a 12-year-old to run the Minnesota Twins, you would be my choice, man. So there you go. Okay. So I got to say, I'm a little excited for the Show to Be Named Later podcast because it is not our first guest we've ever had, but it's our first non-relative guest that is going to be joining us today. And so I'm excited about that. And what's interesting about our guest today is that he's one of the enemy. He plays on the other team. Now, don't think, bad that way, but it doesn't mean that we're going to argue and we're going to yell and we're going to hate each other at the end of the conversation. I mean, I will always have love for this guy. I don't know how he'll feel about me after my interview with him. But what we're hoping, so when I say that we're bringing the enemy in, a lot of stuff went down yesterday in the NFL, and most of it was not good. Okay. And so one of the things Noah and I talked about was bringing a correspondent in. Obviously, this is a Minnesota sports show, but bringing someone in and giving, our neighbors to the east, we've said this many times, they're born there, and yet they choose to live here in Minnesota. Our buddy we're bringing in tonight is not. He is born and bred in Green Bay, season ticket holder. And so I thought it would be interesting, because I don't know if we have Packer fans that watch the show or not, but considering that they did make the playoffs, I think it would be kind of cool to get some perspective on what exactly, how Packer fans are looking at their chances going into the playoffs. So think that's a good idea? We're okay with that?
We're ready to go.
Okay. So we talked about bad news, and I think that was already on the horizon. The Vikings needed a lot of things to go their way on Sunday, and none of them did, including that it wouldn't have mattered. I thought maybe all the teams that we needed to lose would lose, and we would also lose. That would be perfect par for the course, right?
Right.
But that did not happen. And so because the NFC is so weak, the Green Bay Packers have made it to the NFC playoffs. But here's what I wanted to cover before we get to our Green Bay friends. I'm looking at the Vikings. We talked a little bit about this in our last podcast about the future for the Minnesota Vikings and the glaring holes and how going into it, I think that we were all kind of in agreement that maybe Kirk Cousins was the right choice to bring this guy back. Now, I had a lot of time on my hands. At first day back at school today, I couldn't sleep last night, so all I did was think about Vikings football. And one of the things that I think I'm going back on now is the Kirk Cousins deal. And I'm going to bring up a number of points, and I'm curious what you have to say about this after I hopefully present my case in a timely manner. First of all, I looked at the amount of quarterbacks in the NFL who are paid annually $40+ million a year. Okay. 40 or even beyond that. And there's a lot of them. And so I think Cousins was right around 36 or 38 a year in his final contract. But do I think that we're going to get him for under 40 mil a year for 2 years, for 3 years? I don't think that probably will happen. And when I think about that, here are the things that I started thinking about. I was like, okay, last year when the Vikings went 13-4, to me, that was the best shot as a Kirk Cousins team to make some waves, and actually go to the Super Bowl if that's what you were hoping to do. Okay. And we didn't even get out of one playoff game. So my question is, what exactly do you, for the first thing I'm going to give to you, Noah, is if you bring Cousins back for 2 years or 3 years or whatever it is, do you honestly think that the Vikings have the maracas to actually make a run in the next 2 years for a Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins at the helm? That's number one.
I think he gives you the best chance to do that.
Okay.
With
for the money, though.
Absolutely. I think you can't bank on the fact that this guy was playing at a MVP caliber level before he got hurt. He was playing out of his mind, and you can't exactly think that you're going to get that again in next year. I mean, he's getting older, but you see these teams that go deep into the playoffs, and a common theme is it typically have a pretty good quarterback. And to me, the quarterback is the most important position on the team.
Yep.
And if he gives you, I think he gives you that best chance, and especially with, I don't know how many weapons you maybe lose in the offseason or what you bring in, but I think with what we have on this team, we saw them winning during the season this past season. So
right. But winning in the NFC North is different than winning in the NFC playoffs and then actually getting to a Super Bowl, which I've only seen once in my life, and I was 4 years old. You understand where I'm going with that?
Yes, absolutely. I think with a Kirk Cousins this season, a full season of Kirk Cousins, I think this team wins the division, and I think they're potentially the 2 or 3 seed. And yes, I think winning in the NFC is probably not as tough in the AFC, but I do think, like, yes, you can build for the future, but I do think this is, if you have the opportunity to win, let's go and do it. Kirk Cousins wants to be here.
Okay.
You talk about a $40 million deal. To my knowledge, the number that was thrown out was 2 years, $60 million, which I would do in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm not thinking that though. And okay, so that brings me to my next. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Was that? Should we keep going?
Yeah,
okay. So I watched his post-season interview. Maybe you saw it. I don't know, because to me it was very cryptic. I really didn't know where the guy was coming from, because his comments were so, gee, you could go either way on it. Now, that's all fine and good to say, my kids really like their kindergarten class here, but then maybe we got to find another kindergarten. It's not all about the money. But then again, if the New Orleans Saints offered him, you were saying 60 for 2 years. If the Saints were offering him 90 for 2 years, you don't think is it now? Cousins said in the interview, he said, I've been blessed financially beyond my wildest dreams. Okay, so it's not about the money. But then, being cryptic, he says, a coach really gave me good advice about 8 years ago and said, it's not about the money. It's about what the money stands for. So to me, I'm like, no, well, what is he saying here? I don't understand. Are you saying that you want to stay? And then the final comment that he made that just had me scratching my chin and saying, I don't know where this guy's coming from. He said, it's all going to come down to structure. But he didn't go into detail about what that meant. Does that mean structure of your contract or structure of what the team structure is and where the team is headed? Because obviously that's going to play a role in whether or not he chooses to sign here for less money or for at least money that keeps the Vikings in a relative good spot, right? So what did you make of his comments, or at least what I've relayed? Because I think they're pretty accurate as far as what I said. I think that's what he said.
Yeah, I think to his credit for what he's doing, I think he's smart in the sense of, look, like, you're going into free agency, for a guy to come out and say, I want to be here, I love it, blah, 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 blah. The Vikings would know that, and I think to an extent, like, yes, he's been blessed financially, but like if a team throws you, 70, 80 million, like, hell yeah, take that. Like,
Absolutely.
but to the point of like, if I come out and I say, I want to be here, I want nothing more or nothing less than to be a Minnesota Viking. If I'm the Vikings, I know I don't have to throw that much money at him. And so to be somewhat cryptic in his wording, I think you're still playing, like, the guy still wants a decent contract. And I think
right, because it's his last one.
Right. And I think to say those types of things, he played it perfectly in the sense of he's right in the middle. Like, everyone knows he wants to be here. Everyone knows that. But if someone's going to throw him an absolute bag of money, he might not be there. So I think he played it well. It was
now wait a minute.
sure.
He never came out and directly said, I want to be here. Danielle Hunter said, I want to be here. He did. He flat out said, it's not only the franchise, but it's the people in this locker room that make me want to be a Minnesota Viking. So to me, I'm thinking Danielle Hunter might do a little extra if he does want to stay here. Where Cousins, I wasn't so sure. Now, the other point I'm going to make with Cousins, because as I tossed and turned about this last night, I was like, fuck it, that's it. I'm done with Cousins. No, we got to go a different way. We're 11th in the draft. So we can get a guy that supposedly you are going to say, this is the guy that's going to be our whatever mojo Green Bay has as far as drafting guys, and they just always work out. Okay. You're not going to wait till the second or the third round, like a Jalen, what's his name? Jalen Hall, and say, well, he might be, but we don't know. Right. He might be our guy, but we just don't know yet. If you go with a quarterback in the first round, that's it. That should be your guy that you're going to get for a lot cheaper. However, as I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, well, yeah, it's a no-brainer. If you're picking 11th, you can easily move down, easier from 11th down to 7 or 6 than you could if you were picking at 25th or 26th, right? So you can move. Now, as I'm tossing and turning with this, then I'm thinking, now, wait a minute. Is Kirk Cousins the only person on the planet right now, at least, that can run this offense? Because everyone says it's such a difficult offense to grasp. And apparently that is the case with the 3 different guys that we tried other than Kirk Cousins. Remember, Cousins didn't grasp O'Connell's offensive playbook right off the bat either. It took him a little time. And he talked about like listening to plays in his car when he was driving, or he would put a cassette in, and listen to it as he fell asleep. They're saying that is a very, very difficult playbook to be able to grasp. So then I'm thinking, well, I don't know if a rookie quarterback is going to be able to do that for you if it took 2 years for Cousins to fucking figure it out. And so then I had to flip-flop again and go back and go, well, okay, your thoughts on that part, because I got more.
So I'll throw it out to you. I'll throw it back to you in the sense of the main point I want to get at is right now, I think you hit it with the offensive piece of it takes some time to get to know the playbook. I think Cousins had basically mastered it at this point in the season, and was doing very well with it. So re-signing Kirk Cousins, and then you use your 11th pick, you go get your guy for the future, because all those people clamoring about Jordan Love maybe they forget that he was drafted 2-3 years ago and got to learn under Aaron Rodgers and everything.
Oh, just wait. We're going to get to that guy in a second.
So why not get a quarterback who knows the playbook and gives you a very good chance to win, and you've got your quarterback of the future waiting in the wings, learning from Kirk Cousins?
Can you afford to waste a first-round pick on a guy that's not going to help your team this year, though?
I would think so.
Okay.
Where did Jordan Love get picked? Was he a first rounder?
That's why we're bringing someone in from Green Bay. We'll ask him that. I want to say, yeah, because I thought they traded down to get Jordan Love, and that's what caused the initial rift with Aaron Rodgers. Was he was clamoring for guys to help him win as long as he was a Green Bay Packer. So he wanted more offensive help, and they chose to pick a quarterback. I want to say it was the first round, and to me, the writing was on the wall at that point for Aaron Rodgers, or what I guess what a lot of people believed was, and that already started the rift, kind of like what they had with Brett Favre. So, I mean, I don't know, but then here's my next point, because this is something I did not understand. I watched it. Did you watch the game on Sunday, the Lions game?
Like half of it.
Okay. So there was another guy that I thought looked pretty good by the name of Mr. Chandler, running back. Why is it that Kevin O'Connell waited so long? And I'm talking about even after he had a great game against the Bengals, even though we lost that game. I think we lost because we stopped going to Chandler. But why is it that we waited so long, and then even after that pretty good game, we went away from him, and he still had to jam Madison down our throat? Is that because that was a pride thing for O'Connell to say, well, this is our guy. He was our buddy. He's such a nice guy. And we promised him that role as starting running back, and we gave him the money. So we got to keep going with it because we can't be wrong, because we're not going to be held accountable.
I think my hot take is that it wasn't O'Connell, and it was more the front office who had committed to Madison after giving up Dalvin Cook. So it very well could have been O'Connell. I don't know. Personally, it seems more of a front office move when you're just not getting production.
But they don't call who's on the field at that. I mean, this ain't baseball. This isn't the Falcons. The head coach still has every right to say who is going to get the number of touches. And then the upper management says, I disagree with what you're doing. You need to tone it down a bit, right?
I do. To me, again, I do think the front office had a point in it, or a part in it. Chandler was great. He's very explosive. I think his one downside is his blocking. It's just almost non-existent.
That's what everybody said, but there's a lot of motherfuckers that have problems with blocking,
Absolutely.
as we saw yesterday. Yeah. So, I mean, to me, I weigh the things out, and I would rather go with the positives. To my knowledge, Chandler hasn't coughed the ball up, not like Madison has. And Madison just did not look like he was ready for the job of starting running back in the NFL. It just didn't appear that way. And yet it was KOC that emphasized that this is what we were going to do. We were going to maintain the running deal. Now, I was listening to Barrero today, and he brought up a very good point. When you're throwing the ball 50 times a game, chances of you throwing 2 or 3 picks in a game goes up quite a bit, right? So I guess that's my next question is, you got the draft coming up, and you do not have an established running back on your roster right now, because I don't even know if they give Chandler an opportunity to compete for the number 1 running back position next year, because it just seemed like they didn't buy into him at all, even when he was doing positive things on the field. And so how does that play into a 30-some-year-old quarterback in Kirk Cousins, if you choose to bring him back, compared to a rookie quarterback who I think KOC is going to try to emphasize the run again next year?
That scares me too, of if your run game was pretty bad this year and you go with the rookie
quarterback. 7
quarterback.
touchdowns, Noah. 7 touchdowns. I think that has only happened 2 other times in Minnesota Vikings history. Okay? 7 motherfucking touchdowns. And Chandler had 4 of them. So
Yep.
3 of them.
But that's what scares me, is if I'm putting my trust into a rookie quarterback with almost no run game and trusting him to just throw the ball. I just don't know what that does to your development, in the sense of just really having to be the guy. So that's just my thing. Now, I think everyone forgets we got Cam Akers, who I believe will be on the team next year.
Yeah, I
And I
forgot
kind of
about
like
it.
Cam Akers. So
Yeah. I, oh man. So you understand my tossing and turning last night, because I just don't know at this juncture what the Vikings are going to decide to do. The draft isn't until, I believe, April, right? In Detroit. And so it's to me, it's really interesting because once again, I got to go back to Barrero. I did listen to him a little bit, and some of the things that they talked about on his show today was you don't want to settle for a guy in the 4th or the 5th round if you are going after a quarterback, right? But how much do you put on the table of say, if you got to take a guy in the 1st round, and there are so many holes in this lineup right now because we don't know how free agency is going to go. So can you afford to take a 1st round pick on a guy that's only going to sit on the bench and not help your club next year and the year after? And if that happens, if there's that many holes in the product, does that even give Cousins an opportunity to do what he's supposedly going to be paid or brought back to do?
it's a good question. I think I mean, yes, I think there's positives and negatives to, if you go get a Michael Penix, a Jaden Daniels in the 1st round,
Bo
having him
Nix.
sit, Bo Nix, yeah. Having him sit is yes, they might not be helping. I think there's the upside of them learning from a veteran quarterback in Kirk
Right.
Cousins, who I think is probably one of the better guys to sit behind in the league right now.
Everybody loves the guy. Everyone loves Kirk Cousins. It doesn't matter how nerdy white boy he is. It seems like everybody in the locker room seems to really like this guy. And I'll tell you, as far as a rah-rah guy, I wasn't crazy about him shirtless, against the Packers and what. But the guy, I think, will go to bat for your franchise 110%. And so, then I go back and I go, yeah, you got to bring that guy back. Do I think Jefferson would be more inclined to sign with the Vikings, regardless of what money they're going to throw out there, if he's got a guy like Kirk Cousins compared to a guy like Michael Penix, or we're not going to talk about crybaby Mr. Mullins. So sad. Don't cry. I know you had your one chance at stardom and you fucked it up. Okay, but don't cry at the end of the game. That just shows weakness to all people who are not Vikings fans. Okay. Sorry. Disappointing. Don't cry. So, like I say, I think a Cousins, and so then I flip-flop again. I think a Cousins signing would help a Jefferson signing. But man, if you don't figure this shit out by draft time at least, how are you even going to entice Mr. Jefferson to come and play for the Vikings if you don't know who's got the reins?
Well, and that was my thing with, and I was going to get to it later with Jefferson, was I do think he's not going to come out and say it that he wants Kirk Cousins or whatnot, but you could see the frustration when he's playing with a Josh Dobbs, with a Nick Mullins, a Jaron Hall. Like, you could see it.
And he was a stud yesterday. He was a stud, dude. Are you kidding me? Over 1,000 yards receiving in 9 games, 10 games?
Yep. And that's why, to me, to when you have the best wide receiver in the game, to pair him with a very, very good quarterback and just take advantage of when you have this guy. I think, to me, if it's like, hey, JJ, let's sign a long-term deal. You got Cousins for another 2 years. We're going to develop this stud of a quarterback below him, and he's going to be the next guy. Yeah. I think that's more of a selling point to him compared to, we're going to see what happens with Bo Nix,
right.
So
I will piggyback on that. He is an absolute stud. He is the best wide receiver in the game, hands down. And he made Mullins look really good yesterday. I mean, I don't. That was probably the best game Mullins had played. I watched that with my good friend Perma. I'm like, holy shit! I said Mullins, he didn't get close to 400 yards passing, and he's got no turnovers. And then, of course, the last one a little. All right. Well, I don't want to spend too much time. I mean, I've got a million other things to say about this team, and about, I guess, the direction that this team is going. So we're going to try to Dante Culpepper. Come on, huddle up here, and I think it's time to bring our guest in, and we'll go from there, because I am really interested to see how Packer fans think they have a chance at doing anything. But let's get into that a little bit later, okay? All right, so back now, and like I said, we're very excited, because for the first time now it's not the first time that we've had a guest, but it's the first time we've had a non-relative as a guest. So we have our very second guest here on the Show to Be Named Later podcast. So let's start it out. Let's do it the right way. You are looking live at a house near the land of the Stinking Bay. We are joined by Green Bay Packers season ticket holder, and I believe Ray Nitschke's former hairstylist. We'll call him Gus, because we don't because we don't want to tip too much off, but he is our neighbor to the east, and you are now first, before we even get to that, I threw about 3 references out there, and I'm wondering if you got any of them, because I know Noah didn't get at least the very first reference that I threw out there.
Yeah, Ray Nitschke reference. Ray had a little less hair than I got, but I'm catching up fast.
Yeah, that was so. Okay, so you're one
Johnny's
for one.
pulling the Mel Blount haircut style,
Right.
or the Otis Sistrunk who came from the University of Mars, I believe. Now we're going old school, John.
What? Mark Murphy, though, as well, had the same haircut, right?
Yes, but he had a disease. He had one of those weird diseases where you don't grow any hair.
Oh,
I
guess I've got it too. All right.
Yeah, and that's Mark Murphy, who played for the Packers, not the current president of the Packers.
Okay.
Yeah,
did you get the other 2 references now? Because I started it off with one that I thought you would appreciate, but I bet you our friend Noah doesn't know what that meant. You are looking live.
Oh God, that's our good friend on CBS back then, Brent Musburger, who urban legend was on the NFL Today, would say you are looking live.
Why was that?
Asked him to say that so the sports bettors knew if the weather is bad to go over or under on the spread, or the over under on the points, was what urban legend had it.
So that's never been confirmed at all.
That's never been confirmed. It's been urban legend, so they really don't know.
So, and that's probably before your time, but yeah, no, they used to have to say that in case they put a film of, it's 70 degrees and sunny here in Green Bay, and the spread is only 2 points or whatever it is, but you've got a team from Los Angeles coming in, and it's 20 below zero, and it's snowing. And second one, I was not ripping on the city of Green Bay when I said it was the land of the Stinking Bay. Do you know what reference that is?
Well, that is the Green Bay Waterway itself, and the Fox River that flows in is one of the most polluted rivers in the United States, or was, I should say.
Well, and I believe it went all the way back to when Jean Nicolette was commissioned by Champlain to scout the area out, and they said, there's a lot of green algae that grows.
There's a lot of green algae.
And it has kind of an odor to it as well. But to make everything all right, there was a translation problem between the Native Americans and or as you say it here in Minnesota, not Nicolette, but you say Nicolette. Okay.
Nicolette.
Right. And so there was this translation, and that's where we get the land of the Stinking Bay. So
exactly.
Okay, great. Good. I knew you'd be able to play, my man. Now, one of the reasons that we brought you in was because you're one of the very few Packer fans that is now born in Wisconsin and then chooses to start a family and live in the state of Minnesota and then talk shit, the entire time that they're here. You guys got a little bit of some good news yesterday.
We did.
Okay. And not necessarily because you guys are an NFC power, but because the NFC is kind of a weak.
I would agree with you. The NFC is very weak this year. Typically 9-8 won't get you in the playoffs, but it's just the way it worked out.
Okay.
They won the games they had to win.
So my first question, and I know because I would be the same if the Vikings were like, if the Vikings got in at 8-9, I would still think, yeah, they're going to the Super Bowl for sure. What is the energy? Now you live not in Green Bay, but you live outside of Green Bay. Is that correct?
Yeah, I live in a city called De Pere, which we're probably about a 20-minute ride from Lambeau Field.
But you're a season ticket holder. Were you at the game yesterday?
I was there with 78,000 of my closest friends, as
Sure.
my joke likes to go.
Sure. So what is the energy? You know, it's not like you killed the Bears yesterday.
No.
But then the other thing is you guys face a familiar foe in the Dallas Cowboys. In the 90s, my friends who were big Packers fans, it was always, well, it's kind of like the Brewers feel, fans feel with the St. Louis Cardinals. Always wanted to achieve what, your opponent was going to be. Right. And in the 90s, the Cowboys kicked the shit out of you guys most of the time. What is the energy, or what is, I guess, the idea for most Packer fans moving forward? Now you guys got Dallas in the first round of the playoffs.
I heard a term on a local station today. It said we're playing with house money.
Yep.
Everybody's hope this year was, okay, is Jordan Love going to play good? Can he keep improving? Can the young wide receivers step up? And they have. So everybody's like, hey, the over-under for the Packers wins this year was 7.5, which they obviously overachieved on that. And the young receivers, Jaden Reed, number 11, came out of, not nowhere, but he was a pretty good star at Michigan State. Defanian Wicks, he came out of Virginia, which is not a football powerhouse by any means. And he's come on. Tucker Kraft came out of South Dakota State University, not a football power. He's a rookie tight end.
Wait a minute,
so all these young guys have just started gelling at the right time and improved as week went by.
Wait a minute, was South Dakota State or South Dakota? I thought South Dakota State won the 1AA championship yesterday.
They did.
Montana.
Yeah,
so I think you're wrong. Is that they're not a
You got me on that one, but they don't produce a lot of NFL stars. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, they're no North Dakota State. Okay.
Yeah.
So what do most of you guys go into this game thinking? Because the Cowboys, who knows what team is going to show up for Dallas? It is a game in Dallas, though, correct? So
correct.
Do you guys really feel that you have a legitimate shot? And if you do, how do you fare against upcoming opponents if you do get by Dallas?
I think most people are just feeling they're going to have get a lot of breaks go their way to even have a chance to stay close. I think everybody's hope is keep it a game into the fourth quarter and see what happens. Because as playoff games gets tense in the fourth quarter, mistakes can happen. We all know Mike McCarthy from his days of coaching in Green Bay has made a few moves. Reference the NFC Championship game against Seattle Seahawks in 2014.
What
if you want to watch that debacle.
Yes.
He's lost his fair share of playoff games by just questionable coaching decisions and questionable things. So the thought process here is keep it a game into the fourth quarter. Like I said, we're playing with house money.
Right. Does that give you guys confidence going into the matchup that McCarthy is the coach when you talk about blunders as far as in the playoffs or anything like that?
That already came up last night in the postgame show. Like, hey, we're playing Coach McCarthy, and I was like, maybe he'll make some of his patented, playoff blunders, and we'll get some breaks going our way. Some bad calls. You watch the end of that Lions-Cowboy game a couple weeks ago. They're trying to run the clock out, and he throws 3 passes in a row.
Right.
When all they have to do is run the clock down to 20 seconds.
Yep.
And he gives Detroit all this time to march down the field, and then we could go on forever and then a whole 2-point conversion debacle. But
and just like Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, of course, the officials took that game from the Lions, correct? Right? That they didn't do anything to lose that game. Okay, all right. What is your prediction for Green Bay Dallas? Now, do you actually? like for us, like me and Noah, we'll make predictions about our teams all the time, and a lot of times we are pretty accurate on what we say is going to happen. Are you allowed as a season ticket holder to make a prediction on the upcoming game?
I am, and Johnny, you forgot also one part. I am a stockholder. I own one share stock in the Packers organization.
Yes,
which has no merit of anything.
Yeah. You knew that, Noah, right? That all Packers season ticket holders are stockholders because it's the only team in the history of any pro sports, right, where the people actually are the owners. Correct?
It's awesome.
Correct.
I love it.
Yeah,
we have executive committee, and the funny part, if some weird reason the Packers would have to fold or move, all the money gets sold and they build a VFW memorial in downtown Green Bay. It's some crazy.
Really?
That was in the bylaws. If the team ever folds,
this is why I know we bring these guys in
here.
Yep. Okay. And when they got the franchise, wasn't it the deal was if we name them after the Meat Packers or whatever, we'll give you a franchise here and we'll name the team after. Is that how it went down or not?
Yeah, there's also a lot of varied stories, but basically it was Curly Lambeau worked for this meatpacking company, and he approached the manager, "Hey, could you give us a couple $100 for some jerseys?" And suppose the manager said, "Sure, but we want to be called the Packers," or they call the Acme Packers because it was called the Acme Packing Company.
Right.
So he said, "Yeah, we'll give you the jerseys, but we're basically it's almost like on Rocky 1 where he puts a meatpacking plant on the back of his warm-up robe, where hey, we're gonna do a little advertising." We'll watch one hand, watch the other.
The Acme Meatpacking Plant. Now, you guys are responsible for Wile E. Coyote never being able to catch the Roadrunner as well, right? Because that was all your stuff.
That was all the stuff coming from Acme products. Yes.
Okay. Next question I have, because I don't.
You forgot the prediction, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. Thank you. That's why we brought him.
That's why we brought him along. Yeah. I'm a Packer fan, but I'm also a realist. Yep. I really don't see him winning this game. I mean, I see him maybe if they could keep it up on 30-20. I would be a very happy. Like, hey, keep it in the game. Keep it a game in the fourth quarter. I think Dallas's receivers are the deep. Packers have a lot of young defensive backs. I think CeeDee Lamb's going to have a field day. They can't cover anybody, a good wide receiver. They're going to have trouble.
Right.
But their only hope is if they start getting a massive pass rush somehow. But the problem with that is we have such a young defensive backs. Everybody's giving our defensive corner Joe Barry all sorts of ripping on him because he plays soft. Well, when you have rookie cornerbacks and rookie safeties, you tend to play soft because you don't want to get them burned deep, and hope we just take everything underneath it and come up with some mistakes and then that's where they're sitting. But yeah, I see them having a tough time with CeeDee Lamb on Sunday afternoon.
Okay. Now getting back to you being a stockholder and whatnot and being able to make decisions for this team, does that mean that you can automatically declare yourself a captain of the team and go out for the coin toss, and then maybe you don't get to play against the Vikings, but we didn't really need you anyways kind of deal? Or what the fuck was that all about? Can you explain that to us?
That has been the puzzling thing all year, because he's been a healthy scratch for 5 weeks. So they think there's some internal locker room problem going on. And then his claim was, well, and most times this does happen. The Packers are pretty good about, if we're in your hometown or it's something, a family connection, or maybe had a family member die, hey, let's give you a good deal and we'll let you go out and be part of the coin toss.
Yeah.
So apparently he just thought this happens and forgot to say the coaches have to make sure you're initiated as one of the captains. And then he went out there and called.
He almost screwed it up, right?
Yeah, he boogered it up. He said, "Yeah, the Panthers won the coin toss," and he goes, "Yeah, we'll go on defense," thinking like they're gonna pick offense. And the ref was, I don't know why the ref even did this. He's like, "You sure you called that right?" So
right.
Even was nice enough to kind of double down on him. He should have said, "Well, Packers won the toss. They're playing defense, and they could have lost the coin toss."
I've never seen that where the best defensive back on the team is a healthy scratch and one of the bigger games of the year, and they're like, "No, we're not going to go with you in this one." Yeah. And you didn't need him anyways. So
no, they didn't need him. But Justin Jefferson has had a good history against the Packers, lighting them up in
Jefferson actually was upset because he wants to go against the best.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, oh, it didn't matter because nobody could throw the ball to Jefferson, at least that day. So
not that day. No.
So next, I'm sorry, and I'm not trying to exclude you, Noah. I only get to see or talk to Gus every once in a while. So you have anything right off the top of your head that you want to ask me? Because I can keep going.
Well, I was going to talk about the coin flip debacle, but you beat me to it. So
okay. Next question. I don't usually hold a lot, but yeah, I like to play Madden on PlayStation. Okay. And I never go by, like, I've got friends that are like, dude, his overall is like a 99, dude. He's going to be sick, dude, this year. I'm like, no, yeah, that has nothing to do with the game of NFL football. Okay. Just doesn't. But I'm curious about this because I didn't understand this. So I played the Vikings season from start to finish, the entire schedule this year on Madden. And something that I thought was interesting, and the reason I find it interesting is because of all the things that I heard yesterday. Even Minnesota local media is talking about Jordan Love right now. However, I'm playing a season of Madden. The first time I play the Packers, Teddy Bridgewater is the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. So I went into the history of, transactions because I'm playing a season, a franchise season. And because I have the settings where teams can make independent moves, trades, free agent signings. And in this scenario, the Green Bay Packers, maybe Gus, because he's a stockholder, chose to sign Teddy Bridgewater as a free agent, and they started him over Jordan Love. I got through the entire season, and I played. I'm starting my second season now, and the Packers still have Jordan Love on their roster. However, they drafted a rookie quarterback out of Michigan State. Nobody it's a made-up name, and they're starting the rookie over Jordan Love. He's still second string. I'm curious why that is, but yet, as I was listening to CBS talk about Jordan Love yesterday after the game, and they've already crowned him as the heir apparent to Aaron Rodgers, to Brett Favre. He's the best thing since those two quarterbacks. My own fucking local media, Gus, is talking in Minnesota right now about how good Jordan Love is, and yet I'm scratching and I'm saying, so how come on Madden PlayStation they wouldn't even consider him a starting quarterback? Is Jordan Love that good? Because
he's not there yet. Like,
you lost 8 games this year.
We still lost 8 games. The biggest thing I liked each game, he improved. Every week he learned from his mistakes and kept improving. He still cannot throw the deep ball. He throws it in the crowds. And if you remember when Brett Favre first started, his biggest problem was he kept throwing interceptions. Yep. And they had to work on him with Steve Mariucci and Holmgren and Andy Reid and say, you can't work on this. So it took him a long time to get the polished product. Aaron Rodgers the same way. I'm very ecstatic. I did not expect this out of Jordan Love this year. I didn't either. I did not either. Like I said, he still has the problem with the deep ball. It kind of lobs in there, balloons in there. And sooner or later, teams are going to figure that out. And hey, we'll let you throw the long deep ball and we'll just run under it too.
Do you see
he's got some things to work on. He's thrown off his back foot a few too many times. And where that came from was Favre used to do that to save his knees and ankles. But he had a strong enough arm he could get by with it. And he taught that to Aaron Rodgers, say, throw off your back foot and it'll save your knees and ankles from getting rolled up on and hit. And now Rodgers taught that to Jordan Love, but Jordan Love doesn't have the arm strength to throw up his back foot. So it lobs. So I think that's one of the things they really want to work on him in the offseason to improve that. But his decision-making is getting better. I remember, and you remember this name, Johnny. Remember Don Magic Man Mikowski?
Yeah.
In 1989, we thought we had the next coming of Bart Starr's quarterback.
Yep.
Holds out of camp, doesn't get in rhythm, gets hurt. His career is pretty much sidelined other than being a backup. So,
Do you see Jordan Love as your quarterback for the next 10 years? I mean, because, like for someone like Noah, we have our whole lives, all we've done is go from, there was a time when the Vikings had fucking Jeff George, and we made the playoffs that year, and he threw for like 29 yards in that playoff game. We have gone from one quarterback to another quarterback to another quarterback, and they've all been relatively shitty. Do you see Jordan Love, because you've had 25 years of excellent quarterbacks, is Jordan Love the guy that's going to get to that level, in your opinion, at least right now, or is it too early to tell?
I think it's too early to tell. Like I said, he's shown, like, the biggest thing we're talking about the game last night was, or then tailgating too, was every week, if he threw one pick the week before, you could tell he learned from it the next week. You could tell he's improving every week. Like, okay, I'm watching film, I'm doing this wrong, I'm doing that wrong, and he's improving. So I'm not ready to crown him the next Hall of Fame quarterback. Do I like what I see? Yeah. But I'm really not ready to put him up in that echelon yet. And granted, everybody's like, "Oh, he threw for 4,000 yards." Well, the way the rules are, everybody should be throwing for at least 3,500 yards if you start 16 games in a year. Right. It's so pass happy, and then, I mean, every team's running 4 or 5 wide. It's not the 3 yards in the cloud of dust that we grew up watching in the 70s.
Yeah, right.
So it's yeah. Hey, am I happy? Yes. I'm never ready to crown him. Yeah, let's see how he does in the playoffs. Let's see how he does next year when teams start getting a full year to game plan for him and start watching film all the time, all winter long, because that's what coaches do. It's just their breakdown film, one game after another. So
now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you got a mutual friend that I happen to be friends on Facebook, and was it not too long ago that he was trying to sell his tickets on Facebook, because you guys thought that this season was pretty much done? Yes.
Yeah. When they were 2-5, we were trying to find people like, I don't want to go. And our Packer fans have gotten too spoiled. I mean, I was there when I grew up in the 70s. I mean, the Packers were, I think I told you a story, Johnny. 1981, the Packers went 8-8, and they flashed on the screen, "Welcome the team back to the airport." And the fans showed up in droves because they went 8-8, and the fans were just ecstatic,
Right.
And yeah, and
that was a Lynn Dickey year.
That was Lynn Dickey. Yep, John. That's when they traded for John Jefferson, JJ, and they had James Lofton, Paul Coffin. And the next year they went 5-3-1, a strike shortened year.
Yes,
and they came down and ripped down the goalposts after a playoff win. So just showing how starved they were. And then the 80s continued just in doldrums, and I mean, it was so bad. The Packers drafted Bruce Clark out of Penn State, and he went to Canada instead of playing for the Packers.
Really?
Look him up. He played for Penn State.
Wow, that brings me back to when you guys drafted Tony Mandrich, and I remember even back then they said, "Look, the only way Green Bay looks good to a guy like Tony Mandrich is if Fargo gets a franchise, And then we figured out that Tony Mandrich is kind of a bust, right? So it didn't matter anyways. Okay.
4 Hall of Famers are sitting on the board after him.
Yes. All right. So, well, that's good because, it's nice to know that there's pain evenly distributed throughout the country, because that's all we have in Minnesota. At least you guys, I chose to go with the land of the Stinky Bay, but you guys are known by your city is known by another nickname, which I'm going to give you, go ahead. You can say, what's Green Bay known as?
The Titletown, USA.
Yep. Very good. And they enough so that, and that's to us, it's like, well, so Titletown, the very first 2 Super Bowls are Green Bay Packers wins, and they name the trophy after Vince Lombardi. Supposedly, the Vikings hate the Packers so much that they will never win that trophy because it's got Vince Lombardi's name on it. I don't know if that's true or not, but from where I'm standing, it's pretty accurate. So
yeah. And and I was too young to remember the tail end of the Purple People Eater years. I mean, some of those guys are still hanging around yet, but they're at the end of his career. And we and I have talked, like, I remember the Tommy Kramer, the Joe Sensors,
Yep.
Dancing Darren Nelson,
Yep.
and some of those guys that came up through that. I remember you guys had Wade Wilson one year for a while. And
yeah, he was the eventual Super Bowl champion, not with us, but it didn't matter. Yeah, he was on. All right. I'm going to shift gears a little bit because we've forgotten about Noah there. I want to get his input on this as well as yours. Now, were you at the game yesterday, Gus?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
Yes.
So did you happen, because what I like to do when I go to the Vikings games and they get a win and you go, okay, I'm in the playoffs, then I'm okay with watching NFL highlights. I want to see everything that happened during the day. The Vikings lose and they're out of the playoffs. I'm like, fuck the NFL. It's done till next year. Did you happen to catch the debacle at the end of the Atlanta Falcons New Orleans Saints game? Did either of you guys see this?
By the time we got out of the stadium and we went to a local watering hole to wait for traffic to simmer down, and
well, you can't even get a DWI for 3 hours after the game is done, right? In Green Bay.
So I heard this, and I will not reveal this police person's name because I don't want to say if it's a man or woman. Basically said, if you guys don't do anything stupid on your way out of town, we're basically not going to pull you over.
Right. So
even though they know half the people are loaded coming out, they basically said, just get out here. Stay between the yellow lines and go home, and they will not bother you. As long as you're not being an idiot, we're fine.
Right, which it is Green Bay, so I mean,
there's
okay, so you guys both know what I'm talking about with the New Orleans? Okay, your thoughts, and I'll set it up for those and our viewers who are not aware. New Orleans is up. I think it was like 41-17. This was a meaningful game for the Atlanta Falcons. Like it gave them a glimmer, just like the Vikings. They ended up getting spanked. The end of the game is coming. I think there was a minute left. The Saints go to kneel down formation, which the Falcons, everyone's throwing the white flag up at this point. And and as far as the defense is concerned, you can't even make, like, if you look like you're going to kneel down, you can't even dive over the pile to try to strip the ball. They'll penalize you. They'll put you in shackles. They'll throw you in a jail cell. So the Falcons are like, okay, white flag, New Orleans white flag. It's 41-17. Jameson Winston, who I do not believe is the smartest guy to ever play quarterback in the NFL, is at the helm. And supposedly, New Orleans head coach comes in with the play, take a knee. Winston, according to Winston, he and the other 10 guys in the huddle all decided that they were going to let their buddy score a touchdown, and I don't even know who it was. But they go down to kneel down formation. Everybody's looking at it that way. And then Winston hands the ball off to the guy. No one's ready for it, and they score a touchdown. And Winston says, no, we went over the coach's head. All of 11 of us decided in the huddle that we weren't going to do what the coach said we should do. Good for football or bad for football. And to me, it's another reason to hate the fucking New Orleans Saints. And I do.
Well, I think it's bad for football just for the fact of, you listen to your coach. You listen to it, it's different when it's a game and like, hey, the quarterback could say, hey, I thought I saw some press coverage. I thought we could try and throw over the top. No, this is the end of the game. This is taking a knee. It's not a high school thing where we're letting a mentally challenged kid score a touchdown for a goodwill story. It's a professional football league.
Right.
It's, and I do like those stories of high school stories where they let the kids score. And it's a great story. Everybody's happy. Everybody's happy for that youngster. But yeah, no, take a knee, get off the field, do it with class, and just do it. But this, you got to remember, you said Jameis Winston isn't the smartest guy in the world. No. I mean, maybe he thought if they scored a touchdown, there's free crab legs at the local grocery store again.
Yeah, right. From a 5-figure discount. Yeah, right.
Yeah, where you just load up a cart and walk out the door. But that's that college education paying off for him again.
Noah, your thoughts on that?
I'll reiterate. I think it's cheap, right? Like, especially just going over your coach's head. Like, yes, you're the professional football league. Like, this isn't high school where we're maybe going to take a step back. I'm all for, like, I don't care if it's overly matched, just keep running up the score. But when you get to that type of situation, absolutely, like that was terrible in my opinion. I thought it was really funny to see after the whole thing, Arthur Smith ran up and was yelling, that's bullshit to New Orleans head coach. And then I wake up the next day and see he got fired. So I thought that was kind of funny. But
Well, I'm going to get to that.
Jameis Winston it was terrible in my opinion.
I just don't think that you can have an entire and maybe the Saints did not qualify for the playoffs this year, and I don't really know. I only get that from I do have friends who are big Saints fans, and I get all my Saints inside deal. Maybe we'll have them on. I don't know. I hate the Saints almost as much as I hate the Packers, so maybe not. But I don't think that you can have a whole team just decide we're going to go against what the head coach says. Now, when I talk to my friends, they're like, well, no, it's because our head coach is such a jerk. Doesn't mean you go over his head. Maybe he's on his way out. I don't know. But to me, this is what I said to my friend. I said, you got to play that team twice every year, every single year. So how do you think that is going to play? And they're like, well, it doesn't matter because it was the Falcons. But here's my point. I hate the Packers, not you, Gus. I hate the Bears. The Lions aren't even relevant to me. I don't care. Fine. They won the division. They're going to the playoffs. They're going to be one and done. See you in another 25 years when you win another division. Okay? So the Lions I really don't care about. But my point is that if we were up in that, I referenced Madden. I wouldn't even do it on Madden. If I was up 41-17, I'm going to take the knee. If it's my rival in the division, like the Packers or the Bears, a team that I really don't like, I'm not going to go above what, you have these unwritten rules in baseball and in football. I'm not going to go above and beyond and trick someone into thinking that we're put up the white flag and then you're going to humiliate them by doing something like that. I just think it's bad for the game of it's not like, we need to get our power ratings going in college. So we need to put 75 points on the board so that we get a number 3 ranking in the AP poll next week. You know what I mean? I thought it was classless. I just, and like I say, it's another reason why I hate the Saints, because we know they're cheaters anyways. So, that's my thought on it.
And I would say a good old school term was called Bush League.
Bush League.
Bush League. That's an old school term that just is classless. Yeah. That's Bush League.
Yeah. And I love it because we were talking about the intelligence of someone like Jameson Winston. And he's like, I think the reporter even asked him, he's like, you got to play that team twice more, next year. And he goes, we already played them twice this year. Okay. All right. Well, maybe Donovan McNabb, you don't know the rules of overtime or whatever it is. You didn't know that, the first team that scores wins the game. That really did happen, by the way. Okay. Yes. Now you brought up Arthur Smith. I got a kick out of this. I don't know if you knew that because I didn't know this until today. First of all, I had no idea this guy's history. First of all, I loved it that, he got fired. Atlanta couldn't even wait 3 minutes past midnight. At 12:02, they fired this guy and said, that's it. Okay. But what I didn't know, because, all the him and hawing he wanted to do and all the, I'm fired up because you did this to me, but I lost my job and he knew it. Did you know that his father was the founder of FedEx, of Federal Express? This guy is worth like $5.2 billion. So, I'm glad that you got upset, but I don't think he's ever going to be a head coach in the NFL ever again. But this guy's doing okay.
Yeah, I think his wallet is sitting pretty good once the dad passes away. The inheritance is going to be pretty nice.
Right.
I think he's got like 3 or 4 siblings. They all own tons of stock in FedEx. So I think
he's. Did you know that he was the heir apparent to the FedEx?
I learned this year.
Fortune. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, his dad was a founding father, and because they even said, "Why are you getting the coaching?" And whatever blood got in him, he'd love to coach, he'd love to teach, and and good for him. He didn't sit there and like, well, Dad's rich, I don't have to do anything the rest of my life. So I kind of give him credit for that. Like, he wanted
Where did he come from?
He was with Tennessee, I believe, wasn't he? Before he got the head coaching job.
I never even heard. I didn't even know the guy's name until today. I was like, oh, they fired him. Okay, that's great.
Well, the reason I remember his name because the Packers played him early on, like the second game of the year. So, and I remember just hearing the whole FedEx story. I'm like, wow, that's weird. Like 99% of people would be if your dad owned a major company, you'd get some gravy job, like working on in the warehouse or something basic.
We played the Falcons this year, and we didn't get it. So apparently, you didn't get the Kenny Albert your addition of the broadcasting team because we never heard about Arthur Smith and being the heir to the old Henry candy bar, which they make a fine candy bar as well. They really do.
And I heard they don't wear bras there sometimes either, but that's not important.
That is true. That is true. All right. Well, Noah, you got anything else for he's an expert. Obviously, we're going to bring this guy back. Do you have anything else that you wanna pick his brain about?
Yeah. Before we wrap up, just before we let this video get too long, but Packers to Vikings. Obviously, we see a lot of each other throughout the year. The Vikings are an interesting spot. We talked about it. Before you had come on, we talked about the outlook of the Vikings season. I'm curious from a Packers perspective of obviously Kirk Cousins is a free agent. There's a lot of this and that about what they should do. What does a Packers fan think the Minnesota Vikings should do this offseason?
Or do you even think about that?
I always think about what other teams are going to do come draft time. Are they going to draft a quarterback? Is there something they could really, be the difference maker that's going to cause us trouble? And I think I've told you this story, Johnny, when they drafted Randy Moss. The next year, Ron Wolf said, we're drafting 3 cornerbacks the first 3 picks because Randy Moss is going to be a third.
I never heard it. I don't remember that story, but it makes sense.
He drafted 3 cornerbacks the next year because he knew Randy Moss was going to eat us up for years to come.
It's a great story, Noah. This is great.
Yeah. Ron Wolf said that on ESPN. Like, why'd you draft 3 quarterbacks? He goes, because we played Randy Moss twice this year, and we're going to play him twice a year for the next 10 years.
Yep.
So he was there's a reason he's in the Hall of Fame as a general manager.
That's a great story. It's a great story.
I mean, we and I'm not speaking for all the Packer fans. We feel, Vikings still have a great defense. A little nervous if their defensive. I'm sure you guys are a little nervous if their defense coordinator might get a head coaching shot again.
Yep. We've already talked about that. Yep.
But without that defense, you guys wouldn't even have been after Cousins went out. You guys would have been nowhere. I mean, he kept it. I mean, look at the Raider game, 3-zip.
Well, we did lose 6 of our last 7 games.
Yeah, unfortunately, the defense held that team together. Just even gave
till the end. Till the end.
So they're just everybody around here is thinking if they, get another quarterback, or if they want to re-sign Cousins, or if one of these young guys maybe consider another year and develop. You never know. And it's the division. Who
do you expect to be the Vikings quarterback next year?
I have a feeling they're going to re-sign Cousins under a 1-year friendly deal if he accepts it.
2 years.
1 or 2. Maybe a 1-year option on year 2 or something, and kind of keep rolling the dice and see what they do from there. It sounds like he and your head coach get along great, which is always a good.
Everyone loves him, even though he cooks his steak on tinfoil on the grill, and he wears socks with sandals. Okay, and he listens to Creed. Everyone loves him in Minnesota. If you were in that spot, if the Vikings were your team, would you want Cousins back next year for what he brings and maybe the price tag that's going to be on him? Would you want him back?
I would bring him back because what are your other options? Are you trying to pick up a free agent? I don't know what's out there for free agents yet. Sometimes you get those salary hits in March and April where they got to cut a veteran free agent, but even then, there's no good free agent quarterback sitting out there.
No, who's tied with the Vikings right now? Everyone has been saying Russell Wilson is going to get traded. And I told Noah, if we trade for fucking Russell Wilson, I might have to take a year off of watching football. Seriously. Because
he's at the tail end of his career. There's a reason they're pushing him out. There's a reason Seattle wanted to get rid of him, and he's got this huge contract that you'd be saddled with. Yeah, loved him, great quarterback. He played 1 year at Wisconsin, good quarterback. But there's a certain time in your age. Yeah,
That's right. I never cared for him. Never cared for him. So, all right. Well, I can't thank you enough for your time, Gus.
Hey,
I hope you didn't go.
thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate this. We'll, hook up again soon. The NBA basketball season is revving up. Your T-Wolves are taking off like rockets, which is good to see those guys. Happy for you being a T-Wolves fan, and my brother-in-law is a big T-Wolves fan, so happy to see that. Then, we're only about a month and a half away from pitchers and catchers reporting.
Oh, I know it. We've already talked about that, and I will give you that on a closing note. I grew up my whole life hating all Wisconsin teams, not necessarily folks that support Wisconsin teams, but the teams in general. Except the only team in Wisconsin that I'm not threatened by are the Milwaukee Bucks, and I don't know why that is. I'm a Cardinals fan, so obviously I don't care for the Brewers. Obviously, the Vikings-Packers deal, Wisconsin Gopher deal. The Bucks don't intimidate me or don't threaten me in any way. When they won an NBA championship, I went, okay. Is it the same with you guys on how you feel about the Wolves? Like, remember, the Wolves are the worst franchise in North American pro history, okay? So, I mean, it's not really a threat to you guys, but would you like to see the Wolves do okay?
I would. I mean, it'd be great doing okay. And then for some reason, there's not that rivalry in basketball because they play in the West and the Bucks play in the East. Now you go back to the Brewers Twins, you go back to the American League days, there's that bitter rivalry. You got the Packers Vikings, they're in the same division. There's just something, the Bucks and the T-Wolves, they just don't have that rivalry, even though the rivalry is amongst.
Yeah, but I wasn't pissed when when the Bucks won the NBA championship. I didn't go, oh my goodness, my world is coming to an end because our neighbors to the east have a world championship. But like when the Packers won the Super Bowl a couple times in my lifetime, I was like, fuck, I don't want to go to school. I don't want to get out of bed. This one hurts so much. Okay. The Brewers, I mean, 82 was that was the first year I ever watched every World Series game was 82. And that's when I started loving the St. Louis Cardinals. I don't know if you knew that. So, I just don't feel that way about the Bucks. So, I have to say, Gus, thank you so much for coming on. I hope you didn't feel threatened by us, by the questions that we had for you.
I do a good job, and I can't wait to watch the final product.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time.
All right.
Hopefully, maybe we have a reoccurring guest. If you guys keep, playing with house money, maybe you come back and you let us know what's going on.
Yeah, I will always keep you informed on, like I said, if they keep it within a touchdown in the fourth quarter, the quote, Dumb and Dumber, he's saying there's a chance. Is all I can say at this point.
Well, I won't be cheering for you guys.
and I wouldn't expect you to, Johnny.
Thank you so much, buddy. Thanks for your time.
Care, guys.
Appreciate it, man.
Thanks.